The cars have fallen silent here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway until race day. Full party mode has engaged, and we had the final 2-hour practice. This is our coverage of Carb Day. Roll intro. Just throw something special in there. Well, the final 2 hours of practice have been completed, and it was an eventful 2 hours of practice. Of course, these cars were in race trim because this is the final practice before the actual race. And, well, it was eventful, that's for sure. We saw some boneheaded moves, we saw some aggressive moves, we saw some tire issues, and yeah, so let's go over the leaderboards real quick before we get through the ins and outs of the practice session today. So no surprise here, Chip Ganassi racing on top. Takuma Sato with a 227.8. Now I get the speeds are not necessarily important right now, and it's really more about raceability, but it is notable that Chip Ganassi Racing is on top once again. Not only did they get first place, but they also got second and fourth, with Scott Dixon in second and Alex Plow in fourth. The only guy breaking them up, Will Power, who does appear to be very racy and seems to be the guy out of the Team Penske camp that has the best shot to win. At the bottom, Rinus VK. I alluded to this a little bit in the Monday recap, that Rinus VK was towards the bottom of the timesheets. He was at the bottom today. Now, does that mean he has a bad race car? I don't know. I get that overall speeds don't really matter, but at the same time, when it happens both days in race trim, kind of rough. So the race motors are installed in the cars now, which means that the engines that ran in the cars today are the ones on race day. They're fresh engines for all of them, which is something that is kind of special to Indy 500. The race itself is dedicated to the engine, or the engines are dedicated, to this race and this race alone, so it doesn't go against their engine allotment. And there were some issues with Dreyer and Reinbold, with most notably Ryan Hunter-Reay. They had some sort of oil leak in the back of the car that sprayed onto the track. It prompted two track inspections early on in the session, and also a black flag for Ryan Hunter-Reay. Speaking of issues in the session, Catherine Legg, recovering from that incident on Monday practice, had a wheel nut fall off, and she stopped it in turn number 2 safely. There was no further incident beyond that. Also, Devlin DeFrancesco had a flat tire in turn number 2. Now, that's a little bit concerning. So, coming into this month, we knew that Firestone had a new compound of tire, and it was going to be a softer compound. And in the first couple days of practice, some cars were actually showing cords on their tires. So that's a little concerning. Are we going to see a disaster like Brickyard 08? Probably not. But still, it's unlike Firestone to have cords showing. Today was the first official outing for Graham Rahal in the Dreyer and Reinbold car, replacing Stephen Wilson. There's been a lot of mixed reactions about that. I can see both sides of the argument. I'm not going to give my opinion out there. I'm sure the rodent will. But, Graham got his way back into the race. And again, I view it as more of a positive instead of a negative. It took a lot of work between the teams and the manufacturers. Obviously, Dreyer and Reinbold is a Chevy team, and RLL is firmly a Honda team. And the fact that even came together is very surprising to me. Back to the racing today. Oh man, were they getting testy with each other. We saw moves in the grass. We saw 3 wide going into turn 1. We saw a bunch of stuff happening in the pit lane as well. Which I'm sure is not going to go over too well. But the 2 hours of entertainment that was very entertaining. I thought some of the moves were boneheaded and dumb, considering it's a practice session. You don't want to write off your race car in the final practice. But you know what? It was entertaining, and they kept it clean. I'll tell you what, Andretti Autosport, with the exception of Kyle Kirkwood, that team looks rough in race trim. Kirkwood was the only one of the team really to be able to do something with his car. He looked racy. He looked fast. He looked like he's able to pass. He made some risky passes. So, Kirkwood, you know what? I have hope for him. He has been the fastest Andretti of the entire month so far, so that is one really promising sign for the young driver. The rest of the Andretti team looks average. McLaren, they look average. They don't look like the super team that they appeared to be in qualifying, in the run-up to qualifying. They were just average. Penske, I mean, again, Will Power was kind of the headliner there. The other cars, they look solid in race trim, but they aren't as good as Will Power. And also Santino Ferrucci appeared very unhappy with his race car. He was towards the lower end of the timesheets today. That's something interesting because that team has had pace. They have been the breakthrough hit of this month so far. But when you go into the final practice and you're not happy with your car, that is a little bit of a concern. And for that entire Foyt team, I hope they sort it out because they've been riding on a huge wave of momentum. Now then, let me get to my pick for the race. So, it's very difficult, but I've said it all along. It's very hard to bet against Chip Ganassi Racing. The 9 and 10 cars worked together quite a bit during this final 2 hours of practice. You know my pick. If you know me, you know deep down who I want to win. But I don't think it's going to be him. I think it's going to be Alex Palou. He has been solid, rock solid. He has not actually put a foot wrong here at the Speedway, at least of his own doing, since his crash in qualifying in 2021. Alex Palou looks very difficult to beat. That looks to be the car at the Speedway. They have showed up and they've showed up hard. All of Ganassi has showed up and showed up hard. But Alex Palou in particular, there's just something different about this Alex Palou this year than compared to 2021 and 2022. So there's my official pick for it. You all know my favorite. So, yeah. I don't know how to wrap this up other than the fact that there's a million people drinking and God, I'm annoyed. But I guess now it's time for the penultimate Leave It to Beaver.
Boy, oh boy, what another incredible day at the race tracks. Because I'm here at what I think is the better of the two racetracks. I'm at Indianapolis Raceway Park, otherwise known as Lucas Oil Indianapolis Raceway Park. And I got to come here for another incredible Carb Night Classic. Looking back, we had another exciting day of Carb Day without the Freedom 100. Because again, Roger Penske is the Antichrist. Going into the practice, we saw the accident that happened on Monday, and what did they do? The exact same crap. We saw over aggressive driving, people driving without their heads because they all want to try and pass each other. We saw passing in the grass, we saw wheel banging, we saw cars get their tires cut, we saw wheel nuts go flying, we saw everything. And going into race day, I think it's going to be one hell of a show. In terms of my pick, I really like that Michael Cannon Big Dick Energy. Get that, I'm coming. Ooh, I really think that if AJ Foyt can get their heads out of their ass and figure it out, they're going to have a very lethal combination going into race day. As for, of course, the guy who's taking over that, Stephen Wilson ride, our favorite line cook who's been flipping them burgers in the afternoons, Graham Rahal, I think he's going to start in the back. I think he's going to stay in the back. I don't think he's going to do much of anything. I think he's going to be a non-factor. He maybe have that one good moment where he makes his way up to 15th, but I don't think he's going to go any further than that. As for what happened here, another incredible day of the Carb Night Classic. We had an incredible sprint car race, had an incredible midget race, and then the other two races don't fucking matter. Who gives a shit about the road to Indy? That was not the whole point of this event. I don't know why they were the main event. I think whoever decided to do that needs to be dragged behind the grandstands and beat to death. Because I think that was a horrible idea. We come here for sprint cars, silver crowns, and midgets. Nobody cares about the glorified, over-engineered go-karts that are used for daddy's money. All the interesting thing they did was spin out and crash. That was it. The race was boring. I took a big fat shoo, shoo, race was boring as hell. I thought it was stupid. This should have ended with the Silver Crowns. I understand that the midgets were supposed to go on last. They ended up going first. Don't know why. Don't care. Race sucked. At the end of the day, again, Fuji's I think he's gonna win. IRP is a cool track. Grand Rayhan is still flipping them burgers, and Michael Cannon's coming on the field. I'll see you guys Sunday. Ooh, ooh, ooh! What the fuck do you want?
Hold on, I'm trying to be nice, okay?
What the fuck?
We don't like each other. Listen, who's your pick to win the 500?
Fuji, I just said it, dumbass.
Okay, fuck you.
Fuck you. You listen to the show.
You're not even real.
I'm more real than you.
What kind of response is that? You're a
People know who I am.
puppet.
I'm a pup who has more followers than you. Yeah, fit me off. I'm gonna go back to flipping them burgers. Ooh, watch this. Ooh, 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 kill him.
You can't do that to me. It's my channel.
I just did.